everybody, welcome back. It's been a minute, but guess what? We're in my breakfast nook. Look who I have sitting next to me, this lovely lady, Victoria.
Amazing.
If you don't remember. And I am
Oliver.
And we're back in my breakfast nook. I'm so excited to have you back here again, even in the midst of COVID.
A long time.
It's been a minute, but we're back. And welcome to Super Geeked, everybody. The channel that celebrates everything that gets us geeked and you.
Okay, so today we have an exciting topic. We're going to sort of do something different. Oliver did something incredible 5 years ago. Was it 5? No, 5 years ago. Was it 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, Oliver took 5 months off of the world, not just work, but life in general, and went and hiked the Appalachian Trail. So he hiked all the way from Georgia to Maine, which I think is completely fascinating and exciting. I don't know anybody else who's done it. I mean, I know that there are a lot of other people that have done it, but that's a big feat. That's exciting. So we thought we would talk about it and cover it. Something different. Something you get super geeked about.
Yep. I got super geeked about it. Even though I thought I'd bitten off more than I could chew with that one, but...
Really?
Yeah.
So let's start off by... where does the trail begin, and then where does it end?
So the trail begins at Springer Mountain, Georgia. It's kind of a little north Georgia. At Springer Mountain, there's a plaque, and they have a little metal cubby that has a notebook that you sign in when you start. So everybody who goes up to Mount Springer, there's that notebook and you sign in. And incidentally, a lot of the trail maintainers and things of the shelters along the way will have notebooks that you can sign in and write little messages to other hikers and to the maintainers also.
And at Springer Mountain, is that the photo that you had of the archway?
Yeah, well, that was at, see, I'm getting old. I don't take my ginkgo biloba like I ought to. There is a state park there that you can go to, and they have a resort, and the name is escaping me. Jesus Christ!
I'll find it and I'll put a picture of it.
But my mom and dad actually dropped me off there. We stayed a night. We got a cabin there for the night because they have cabins, and then they have kind of like a hotel, I guess. But they have bungalows, and we rented a bungalow, and we stayed there the night before, and then they left the next morning after breakfast, and after they dropped me off at
you were on your way.
The approach trail. But it ends in Baxter State Park at Mount Katahdin in Maine. So Georgia to Maine, 14 states, 2,000, close to estimated 2,200 miles or so.
Wow. And I'm going to put in a picture of Ollie when he got to the mountain. And yeah, he did a little bit of posing. Once he made it, which, I mean, it's a big feat, so it's exciting. And also at the end of the trail, you did something that is really shocking, because this is totally out of character for Ollie, but tell him about that ice cream that Sunday.
Oh, so in Millinocket, Maine, there is the Appalachian Trail Cafe is what it's called. And these people are from Florida, but they live part of the year in Maine. Which is kind of amusing to me, one eastern extreme to another. But, they have this, it's called the Summit Sundae is what it is. And it's 14 scoops of ice cream, 1 scoop of ice cream for every state that you pass through. And all this ridiculous toppings, man. Like there's a Snicker bar down a whole Snicker bar down in the bottom of it. Needless to say, this was before I was vegan. And the thing is, it's like a lot of people will do the Summit Sundae, the 14 scoops of ice cream. It's ridiculous. I have photos of it. Well, I'm lactose intolerant. And one of the other hikers' moms knew that.
No.
And she was doing milk and cookies as trail magic on one of the trails and along the way. And she knew that I was lactose intolerant. She's like, oh my God, wait. you're gonna eat ice cream? She's like, you're gonna be so sick. And I'm like, yeah, but I gotta do it. It's tradition. I gotta do it. And she goes, well, at least let me go get some Lactaid or something for you. So she went to the drugstore and came back with Lactaid and made me take it before. How motherly of her. She made me take it before I did the Summit Sunday.
And did you finish it?
I did. I finished it.
All
they
14
time
scoops?
it. Yeah, they time you what it is, and they write your time down on the wall of this cafe. They write your time down on the wall, and they also give you like a bowl, like the bowl that you ate. And I actually have the bowl. I'll show it in just a minute. But and then they wrote my time on it. Let me get the bowl. You here talk while I get the bowl.
I'll just clip this out. And he's back.
So this is the bowl that the sundae came in.
Whoa.
And it's written, if you can, we'll read it to you. It says time. It took me 44 minutes to eat this sundae. And it's from, it's signed Appalachian Trail Cafe, Best of Luck Werewolf, Love Amber.
And that was your trail name, Werewolf.
Werewolf, yeah, Werewolf was my.
So does everybody get a trail name or choose a trail name?
Yeah, some people start with a trail name. Some people have a. There is a hiker that I met that I became close friends with, named Signage, and she's a trail maintainer in Virginia. She lives in Virginia, and Signage, if you're watching this, I love you. I miss you. I stayed at her house in Virginia when I got to the midpoint, kind of, she lives in Roanoke, and she came and picked me up from the trail and gave me a couple of days to wash clothes and things like that. She fed me. But her trail name she had previous because she'd done a lot of hiking and stuff in that area. She was a trail maintainer, so, so she had her, I went to the trail with a trail name. My best friend, JP, had actually kind of given me that. So yeah, if you can imagine this, but like piled high with ice cream, and we'll show the pictures of that because. And
you mentioned taking a couple of days off when you were in Virginia. So you had told me previously that you pretty much have to do that.
Yeah, you have to. You have to treat it like a job. In fact, because you don't want to be 5 months. Of course, it wouldn't take you 5 months if you're not taking days off. We call them on the trail. We call them 0 days. That's where you do no hiking. When you come to these trail towns, you have to take time to smell the roses. Part of the whole experience with doing the trail is you're out of your comfort zone, and you're sort of in that explorer mentality. So why would you not? You're in these new towns that maybe you've never been to before. A lot of people took days off along the trail to go into D.C. Because they'd never been to Washington, D.C. They'd never been to our nation's capital. A lot of us went into New York City when we walked through New York. You got to take time off because you need to stop and smell the roses. It's more than just the trail itself. It's the experience of, being somewhere different, being somewhere new.
And so I definitely wanted to ask you, what precipitated you doing the Appalachian Trail?
Well, the story really kind of goes back many, many years before, whenever I discovered Bill Bryson's book, A Walk in the Woods. And I read it and was just so enamored with the concept of this massive trail that at the time I was living in, and incidentally, I was living in Tennessee at the time, living in East Tennessee. And if anybody knows, the Great Smoky Mountains is a part of the trail. The trail cuts through the Great Smoky Mountains. And so I had actually seen the markers for it and been on a couple of trails that, that kind of segment the Appalachian Trail. And so reading Bill Bryson's book, I was just like, oh. And so it kind of planted the seed. And I started reading all the books that I could. I read every book I could. And then years later, I was married, and, my ex-wife and I were talking about me doing the trail while we were together. And, so that was kind of a plan. And then when we divorced, I made up my mind. It's like, well, the door's open. The door's open for me to do this trail now, and I need to do it now. So I started prepping, and off I went.
And we're going to do a video. We're going to actually break this up. Today we're just talking about the overall journey for Ollie, some basics of what the Appalachian Trail is, and then we're going to also do 2 other parts in the series. We're going to do one where he's going to talk about how he prepared for the trail and what that entailed. And then also we're going to do a 3rd part that we're going to talk about trail stories he has, people he met along the way.
Got a lot of those.
And so we thought that would be a good way to kind of end it. But I did want to talk about our friend JP for a second. And Oliver said that JP was one of the people that sort of talked to him about naming, having his trail name be Werewolf. JP was an amazing person, a good friend of ours, and I'm talking about him in past tense because he did pass away. He unfortunately got in a terrible automobile accident, and it all happened when Oliver was on the trail. So I'm gonna let Oliver talk about it, but he was a big champion of Oliver and often would push Oliver and so he was excited. And one of the stories that Ollie told me was about JP stopping in his mother's place of work because his mother had a map on the wall where she was pinpointing every place that Oliver was on the trail, and JP would stop in to talk to her. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, she did. She had a big map, big long map that covered the entire trail, and she kept up with my trail journals like a secretary. I mean, she was on top of that, and every time I would post anything, she would move that pin a little further north. And she had people that would come in to check on it, but JP was one of them. JP would always duck in and she always had free coffee, so he would come in. He would come in for the free coffee, and he'd fix himself a cup of coffee, and he'd walk in and he'd look at the map, and he'd talk to Mom and anybody else that was in there in the salon, and then eventually he'd just kind of wander off. But he was real big on checking up on me, and we stayed in contact. He and I stayed in contact through the trail. And I remember I was in Virginia, and I believe it was Virginia. I know maybe it wasn't Virginia. I know I talked to him on the phone, and it was the day before I got into West Virginia is what it was.
And what's the halfway point?
That's the halfway point. Well, I mean, there are two kind of arguable halfway points. There's the actual mileage halfway point, which moves depending on the trail. Because the thing about the trail is sometimes the route changes year to year. Sometimes I have new sections of trail, and that was the case the year that I hiked in 2015. There was a new section of trail that was not quite ready, so we didn't take that section, but they had already, and there's someone there, they adjust the marker for the exact halfway point in Pennsylvania.
What's the reasoning for changing the trail?
Well, see, it's kind of difficult to explain, to be honest with you. I mean, because there are a lot of the trail exists on public land or on what's considered part of the national forest, and some areas cut through people's property, literally through their property, and there are some people that are real bitter about that. So
okay.
Sometimes it changes based on that. Sometimes it changes based on the inability to navigate certain areas, or due to ecological reasons.
Yeah, because I knew that it snowed.
Yeah.
We had a weird, freaky snowstorm, and
so
there was snow in Georgia when Ollie started the trail.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it sure was.
Which normally wouldn't have been the case, but.
Yeah, well, it was springtime, right at the beginning of springtime. Usually they do have cold weather up in the mountains that time of year anyway, but this was unseasonable. It was unseasonably cold, and there were sub-zero temperatures in Atlanta when my parents and I were driving up through Georgia, and I was nervous because they had shut down a lot of the roads up to the trail. there is an approach trail. It's like 8 miles, I think. So I ended up having to do the approach trail because the logging roads up to it were closed.
Oh,
so
very
I didn't mind though. It's part,
extra
part
8 miles. That's some street
and
cred.
Amicalola Falls.
That's some street cred.
Yeah,
that you had an extra 8 miles.
An extra 8 miles, I sure did.
So the way that we all followed along with Ollie was he posted pictures on his Instagram, and he also had a trail journal, which I followed along with, not religiously, but I did read when I thought about it, and I did follow along on Instagram. He took some beautiful photos of the trail and the scenery and everything, but when we were talking about JP, so JP was like me and your other friends. He followed along on your trail journal, so we sort of could see where Ollie was. So you got to the halfway point.
Yeah, I got to West Virginia. I was just outside of West Virginia the night before I walked into the Trail Conservancy, which is the unofficial halfway point. That's the home of the Trail Conservancy there in West Virginia.
We'll post a picture of you under the sign.
Yeah.
It's funny.
So I was getting ready to walk into to West Virginia the night before, and I talked to JP on the phone, and I had stopped at a hostel, and I'd stopped, and I was really excited, and I called him, or he called me. We spoke on the phone, nevertheless. And I told him where I was, and he said, "Okay, well, when you get to the halfway point, when you walk into West Virginia, when you get in there, go into a bar and have them pour you a shot, and we're going to drink a toast." And I said, "Okay." And now, when you're hiking, the smart thing to do is put your phone on airplane mode, because sometimes I listen to music while I was hiking to break it up. Sometimes I'll listen to books on tape, whatever the case may be. So I would put it on airplane mode to save battery. And whenever I got into West Virginia, whenever I walked into the conservancy, I turned my phone on, and I had like 1 billion messages, and from all, from like a bunch of different people. And I'm like, what is going on? So I saw my mom was one of the missed calls. So I dialed her number first, and she gave me the news that JP had been killed in an automobile crash with his girlfriend and his mom. And that Miss Donna, JP was killed instantly. So was his girlfriend, but Miss Donna had suffered in hours and hours of surgery before she finally passed. And it was like I faced a real dilemma there, because I knew that it's like, well, I only have enough money to if I fly out to go home for the funeral, then I wouldn't be able to come back and finish the trail. I knew realistically I would. And I talked to Mom several times while I was trying to decide what to do, and everybody kept encouraging me to go on, because that's what JP would have wanted. And I knew they were right, because JP was like, he championed that trail. He was so excited about me doing that trail. And so, I made the decision to go on with it.
I have no doubt that he would have wanted you to finish the trail.
Yeah, he would. He always pushed me to do things, some that I didn't want to do, but in the end I was glad I did. And, he was the one who pushed me artistically with my painting and things like that. He always pushed me with that. Yeah. So he was a big encourager.
JP was a phenomenal artist, and we actually talked about that at CoastCon, the last convention we did before the pandemic, and we talked about how Oliver went as just a buddy of JP's. He was there as an artist, and he encouraged Ollie to start bringing his own artwork. So I have no doubt that JP would have wanted you to finish the trail, and so you went on. And so Oliver did something really cool. His mother made him something very special that we'll show later, and she mailed it to you.
Yeah, and what we did was I had drop boxes that I had set up. And when we get into the prepping, we'll talk more about that. But I had drop boxes that I had prepared, that I had my mom drop in the mail, and it would come to me in trail towns, and I would resupply based off of that. and she had a bandana made that had JP's name and his birth date and his death date on it. And I wore that. I carried that and pretty much dedicated the last half. At that point, I knew that if I couldn't be there for the funeral, the best way that I could honor his memory would be to dedicate that last half of the trail. And at that point there was no giving up. It was like, at that point, I have to do this because I'm doing this for something greater, you know. And so I honored him with the last half of my hike.
And I'll put up a picture too of you holding the bandana at the very end and when he reached the summit. So that was really cool, and I think a great way to honor him. I think he would have been very proud and excited to know that you finished it.
Yeah.
And he probably would have been disappointed if you would have come home.
Yeah,
you know? So
he would.
How long did it take you to do the trail?
5 months.
To the day, right?
5 months to the day, yeah. Actually, I started March the 1st. February. Right there at the end of February was when we drove up to Amicalola Falls in Georgia and stayed at one of the bungalows there. And I started March the 1st in the snow and ice.
In a kilt, by the way.
In a kilt.
Ollie hiked the Appalachian Trail in a kilt.
In a Wallace hunting tartan kilt, no less.
Yeah.
For those of you who, want to know what the tartan was.
I have to tell you, it is one of the things about you that I just admire. I can't even imagine. That is just like the coolest that you were able to do that and complete it, and 5 months out of your life. I mean, that's just so awesome.
You do all the prep work and you prepare and you plan and you train and whatever, but nothing prepares you. My the first night out there, I got up, I was so cocky. I remember I hopped on the trail. Well, the thing is, like, I was a seasoned hiker.
Yeah.
I hiked the Smokies all the time. I was used to hiking. I hiked. That's what I did. Everybody knew Oliver's out on a trail somewhere. If he's off work, he's out on a trail. Well, I was a seasoned hiker, but when you get out there, you realize that you don't know shit. You really don't. You don't know. You have no idea what to expect. And that everything that you think you know, you have to kind of, just say, wait a minute. You have to take a step back and say, I don't know what I know. And it humbles you. It's very humbling. The trail is very humbling. Because my first night, I got out there in the snow and ice, and I was hammocking. I had a hammock, a jungle hammock, and I strained that sucker up, and I put up my my tarp over the top of it because, it was still snowing. And I climbed in there and I didn't lash it down well enough, and like one of the corners flew up. So I woke up in the middle of the night soaking wet, and I thought I was going to die. And so I had one of those Mylar emergency blankets. I ended up sleeping in that, and I sweat inside of that. So I wake up in the morning, if you can imagine, waking up in the snow and ice, cold. Of course, I woke up warm, but whenever I got out and I was soaking wet, I was miserable. And I was like, I just need to make a hot cup of coffee and have a hot breakfast and I'll be okay. And then I got up and hiking, and that was the first 3 days were the most miserable thing. I was like, I came this close to saying, I came close.
That was the the trail testing you.
It was the trail testing me. It sure was.
Yeah.
And I passed, but barely. And I will say this. It was very discouraging because I thought, when you get out there and you're like, I know what I'm doing. I hike the Smokies, blah blah blah. Hiking, camping, whatever. And you realize that you really don't know what you think you know. And nothing can prepare you for the trail. I'm telling you right now, train all you want to. Read everything you can, know everything about the trail, but you're still not going to be prepared for it. So just accept it. it's all about the journey. You know, just like life, it's all about the journey. You know, the destinations are inconsequential compared to what you learn along the way and take out with you, you know.
So do you have plans to ever do it again?
Yes, I do. I want to, my goal is, I'd like to, in 2025, my 10-year anniversary, I'd like to do it again. I want to do it again so bad. Like, I would go right now if I knew I had the financial ability to do so. If I win the lottery, guess where I'm going to be? That's no lie, though. I love the trail so much. I do want to do it again. I do want to contribute. And that's the thing, like a lot of hikers end up back on the trail doing either trail magic or, you know, opening hostels. All the hostels along the way are run by former hikers.
And we'll explain trail magic in the next video, so you have to stay tuned for that. And I just want to end this video by saying I hope you enjoyed this, because I find it fascinating. Even though I'm not a hiker, I do enjoy hiking, but not to the level that Oliver does. I just think it's so fascinating that you did this, and it took 5 months out of your life to hike the Appalachian Trail. It just is so interesting and so cool, and I look forward to finding out more about it on the next episode.
And definitely, and you guys, if you're interested in reading my trail journals at all, you can go to trailjournals.com. And you can go to, they have a backlog of all the years. You can go to, the year is 2015, and you can look me up my trail name, which is Werewolf. So
I'll also put a link below to Oliver's trail journal, so y'all can check that out.
See the pictures, read the journals if you want to.
If you have any questions that you'd like to have answered by Oliver in our next video, like I said, part 2, we're going to go over prepping and how that worked and what that entailed. And then part 3, we're going to talk about his trail stories. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya. One love. Oh, you're recording already. You've been recording this whole time?
No, I just turned it on. You didn't see me?
No, I didn't see you turn it on.
Welcome back to Super Geeked.
No. Just no.
I changed the name.
No. Welcome back to Super Geeked, where we celebrate super queefs, but that's not our name.
I was going to say that.